About 30 years ago, Ross Jeffries created a method based on neuro-linguistic programming aimed at provoking some intense desire in a woman during some casual conversation. However, his seminars and courses have led to both people getting successful with it and people getting frustrated and complaining that it did not really work. But in this video, I simply wanted to share my own experience to explain, in my opinion, what is the main secret that separates people who get successful with it and people who never really succeed with those methods. So as of today, if I sense there is some mutual interest between me and a woman during a party or anywhere, I know I can make the conversation escalate smoothly pretty fast, and I don't really think I use that many patterns or things like this anymore, but it was definitely some big component in the build-up of my skills back in the day. And these days, therefore, whenever guys see me somewhere, how fast I can escalate with a woman somewhere in the party, and they know about speed seduction, stuff like that, then they come to ask me, so what should I do? How do you do this? And it is always the same exact profile of guys who know about speed seduction but don't succeed with it. It is always the same thing, and it is always the same reason why they don't succeed. Usually those are guys who have had slight success with those language patterns. They can spark some casual, nice conversation with a woman when they are interested, and they can be slightly flirtatious by using some metaphor, hypnotic, or some sexual thing in the conversation, but then they kind of get stuck and don't really know how to pass the second gear or accelerate and somehow close the deal, or at least get her into a more private space. They don't have any clue of how to do that or how to really escalate physically with her. And the huge misconception here that relate to how they see speed seduction or language patterns to seduce somebody is that they presuppose those patterns should be a way to say what you want with her without saying what you want with her, because you're supposed to just sneak in the idea into her mind and that will make her fantasize about you, but without clearly saying it. And first of all, no, it is not how it works. It is not going to be some magic pill you can just say and she's gonna fall in love with you. It's just not the way it works. And if you have this mentality that you need to play some trick or to bypass the actual conversation where you clearly state that you want to have sex with her or at least have something more intimate with her, if you try to escape that by bypassing to target some hidden part of her mind, if you have this mentality, this kind of weak mentality of I cannot be honest, therefore I have to play some trick to get her, that is never going to work anyway. So the deeper problem below that is not being at ease with your sexuality, with your sexual desires. In modern society, we are quite often ashamed for our desires. We are being taught it is bad to show how we want to have a sexual relationship with somebody. It is bad, it is disgusting, it is like being a pig. And many guys either refrain from saying anything about it, or they do it the wrong way, which is being way too vocal about it way too early, and that gets her cold too. And those language patterns are a nice mix between both, between not saying anything at all and being way too brutal with saying what you want. However, it has to be said with the clear intention to support the words and the patterns you are using in the conversation. If it is said with a blank tonality and a cold behavior, just as if you were a robot and she was supposed to get all her sexual triggers activated by the way you speak, that is not exactly the way it works. It has to first come from your intention of, I know this is perfectly natural and normal to want to have sex with this woman, and I'm going to communicate that non-verbally, even if that is not a good thing to do in society. Because if I display that too quickly, she's gonna run away from me. But the whole thing about being flirtatious and getting her to fantasize potential things with you has tried to being sexual from the very beginning, not after 3 hours of building embedded commands and building rapport, from the very beginning, being overtly assertive about the fact you want something to happen between you and her. So my big point about NLP language patterns to seduce and speed seduction is a paradox. I would argue that it starts to work when you can seduce somebody without using them, which is counterintuitive and which is a huge paradox. What I mean by that is guys who end up being really good with speed seduction, those patterns, they can do without it. And that doesn't mean they haven't used them to build up their skills the way I did. However, it has to be clear in your mind that you can seduce her just with who you are, by yourself. Once that belief is ingrained into your neurology, then all those patterns will make the thing escalate more smoothly and will make the whole seduction faster. If you don't have that inner game, that ground foundation built up first, then you can say all the cleverest things from Ross Jeffries that's just not going to do much in your life anyway. And before telling you how I have developed the confidence to use all those patterns in a real conversation and make them work, I have assembled down below a little document with 5 of the best language patterns I have developed myself, I have used from experience, that worked the best for me to escalate a conversation, escalate sexually during a conversation with a woman I like. Those patterns are down below and you have the psychological explanations with them for why does it work so well, at least in my case, and you can get some inspiration from them to develop your own. And to that extent, I had used some questions on myself to unveil the deeper blockages I was not aware of consciously that had threat to my sexuality, to how ashamed or not I was feeling about displaying something overtly sexual with somebody that I didn't know. And as of today, you would be confused if you were seeing me and seeing how direct I can be about sexual topics with a woman and seeing that no, she's not offended at all, because I am not offended about what I say. Therefore, she is reacting to my inner behavior, to my inner thoughts about it. If you are ashamed and uncomfortable yourself, she's going to react exactly in the same way to what you say. But those questions are basically, what is sex all about to you personally? For me, it is not just about a physical action. It is about building some intimacy with somebody, about dropping some social conditioning and social barriers. I like that people are really open-minded, and I like discussing those topics and exchanging therefore sexually if we are both attracted to each other. I see that as a drop of the social conditioning we are trapped into. That is my belief. You don't have to copy mine, just elaborate on your own. But what is a deeper meaning of sexuality to you that will support your confidence once you start using some language patterns with the intent of seducing somebody that you like? Second question, why sexuality is important to you? Why should it matter? Why shouldn't you just remain a virgin until the day you die? Why does it matter to you? Number 3, who do you thrive to become through your exploration of sexuality and hypnosis or NLP or speed seduction or anything you are studying? Who do you thrive to become? Number 4, what principles will be the foundation of your own unique sexual philosophy? Think about history, biology, evolution, psychology, art. My perspective comes a lot from biology and evolution. I consider we are not made to remain monogamous. That is just my point. I'm not debating that. It is just my personal view. I don't try to force people to think like me. It is just how I see the world, and I can justify that if I am being challenged. Clarify your own vision. Maybe you want to build a family. Maybe you think open sexuality would be a greater thing in the world. Why? Why do you think it would be? Why do you think it could be a good idea that she jumps on you right now? Why should she do that with you? Why? Number 5, touching the deeper blockages, what are you scared of losing if you were to become way more highly sexual with a woman? Whenever you find her attractive, would you be scared of losing security? Maybe she's going to laugh at you or run away from you or spread some bad publicity about you to her friends. Would you lose some comfort, some protection? What are you scared of losing? Sometimes with guys who really have trouble getting more assertively sexual in the conversation, sometimes it comes from the fact that they have been kind of abandoned by their mother or some female figure in their childhood somehow, and now they're afraid of being left alone again. And those things can really trace really way back in the past. That might require some therapy if that is your case. But number 6, how do you think acting and being more sexual can potentially affect your life negatively? Number 7, what can you do to improve your understanding of sexuality and speed seduction, NLP, hypnosis, whatever tool you want to use? Even if you were to study that without the intent of using anything about NLP, which other method do you think is relevant for you? Number 8, which new ways do you want to explore to expand the amount of pleasure you can give and receive sexually? Because another huge black spot into all those techniques and teachings about the pick-up artist movement, or even the red pill thing, whatever you want to call it, is that many guys end up having sex, or they end up having a girlfriend, and the sex doesn't even feel good at all. And they don't know why. They may blame the condom, but there might be many other psychological reasons behind that I know of with a therapeutic background, but most guys are unaware of that, and they are ashamed of talking about it to their male friends, that they had sex with this one or that one, and it didn't even feel good at all. And they don't know why. So how can you increase that pleasure? Because another, therefore, huge motivation is, if you know that it's going to be intense pleasure for both of you, for you and for her, you are going to be much more motivated and more sensual when you speak with her. Otherwise, you may just be like uncomfortable and shy when you rehearse your seduction patterns, and you may not even communicate the real intention. The real intention is to spread pleasure for you and for her at the same time. Not just you or her, both of you, exchanging together in a beautiful world. Why not? Number 9, once you will have achieved all your goals with sexuality, hypnosis, NLP, whatever you want, what will have changed in your life specifically? Will you have a girlfriend? Will you get married? Can you describe that with some more adjectives and verbs than just, oh, you will be cool? No, it's not just it will be cool. Specifically, what will change in your life once you succeed with all of those methods? And number 10, finally, what do you want every woman to say about your conversations and sexual skills? Because yes, start with the end in mind. The end in mind is to build up a sexual connection with her, which I believe won't happen if there is not some natural interest between the two of you. I don't believe you can force that on somebody else. I believe there needs to be some initial attraction, but then even when there is initial attraction, most guys don't know how to lead up to that point. And that is why they come to seduction techniques, speed seduction, some pick-up artist things. They come to those things because they don't really know. Women usually presuppose it is intuitive for everyone. It is highly intuitive for them quite often. It is not as intuitive for men to know how to escalate the conversation and make it more sensual. So with the end in mind, once all of this is done and once you have a great sexual encounter with her, then what do you want her to say about you? Positively, or even negatively if you want, what do you want her to say about you? Once this gets clear in your mind, you will get much more comfortable to discuss those things with her, and whatever line, phrase, hypnotic pattern you use, that will have a much deeper impact on her mind and her emotions than if it comes from somebody who's just afraid of talking about it and tries to sneak in some pattern in comment because he doesn't really want to talk about it directly. Be grounded, calm, assertive, confident, and agreeable into your sensation that it is okay to want something sexual with her. If it becomes normal and natural for you, it is going to feel natural for her to just escalate with you in the bedroom. She won't have regrets if it came from somebody who feels like it is okay. And then all the things about relationships, should we engage or not, that is an intellectual discussion to have with her. The sooner the better, so I would definitely encourage to be upfront about it. I know most guys ignore that advice. I prefer to be upfront. Most guys want to play the puppy, little shitty child who doesn't want to be honest about anything. I prefer to act like a man and be honest about what I want from the beginning. Up to you if you don't want to act like this. I prefer to be honest, and that way I know we come from the same foundation for what our relationship is going to be. For me, it's going to be open, not monogamous in any way. If she doesn't like this, fine, she's completely free to go find guys who will be happy to jump into her hoops. I like mine to remain open in the way I see them. If she doesn't like this, completely fine. I know I have more options, and you start having more options once you are at ease with your sexuality, once you don't have any more apologies, you don't feel like you have to apologize for anything, you can talk about it openly, and from that point, you are going to meet many more women who are happy to have somebody who at least is honest about what he wants. Most guys just try to evade the question and flip-flop, like try to build a whole roller coaster of excuses for what about this, what about that. Just say clearly what you want, or at least develop the ability to say clearly what you want. Once you have this ability, then yes, then you can be much more subtle and use all the speed seduction patterns, which are more a smoother way of escalating a conversation than if you were too direct with her. But from there, they will work. Those patterns will work because of that. And once again, you have down below in the description 5 of the best language patterns I have ever used. Some of them are questions, some of them are more behavior, some attitude to develop during the conversation. And you can use them to see how they would fit in your conversations and how you can build a deeper connection with her at the moment you speak to her and at the moment you are on a date with her, or even through online dating, if that is your thing. That is down below if you want to check that, be my guest, and in the meantime I will see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.